Welcome back to Photography for the Rest of Us, a place for people who love the art of photography. My name is Carrie, and we made it. This is the end of week 1. We are on day 5 of our Learn Photo Challenge. All right, so I want to start off by saying how freaking proud I am of you guys. You've done so great. So many of you have done the work and tried the things and pushed the buttons and taken the pictures, and that is all I can ask for. The more that you actually practice these skills and learn the whys behind these skills, the better you're going to be as an artist and as a photographer, because you're going to have a bigger understanding overall of how your tool works. Now, if you haven't caught up yet and you aren't ready for day 5 already, you have 2 more days, Saturday and Sunday. You have 2 more days to turn in your work. Hashtag Learn Photo Challenge and hashtag Photos for the Rest of Us on Instagram, or put it on the thread on our Learn Facebook group, which the link is below if you have not joined already. And then on Sunday night, I'm going to gather all my favorites and I'll do a video on Monday morning featuring you guys. You will also be in the running to be the title, the main photo for the Learn Facebook group. So Anna and I are very, very excited to see everything that everybody's worked so hard for. I'm going to warn you right now that next week is going to be more challenging, all right? We're building all month, so if you're not doing the work, you're going to fall behind. We got to do this together, all right? That makes it more challenging for me too, because I have to come up with ways to explain this stuff to you guys. All right, so let's get into it. Like I said, week 1 is Aperture, and Aperture comes into play in a completely new way today. Day 5, our prompt is macro photography, macro fun, and I am so excited about that because macro photography is actually one of my very favorite types of photography. I am by no means a technician of macro photography. There are some people out there that do amazing things with focus stacking and extension tubes and all of this like complex stuff. I am more of a hobbyist when it comes to macro photography, but it's kind of my zen. I love when I get overwhelmed with like going out and shooting and things aren't inspiring. Like, start with this way. I live in Kansas and it's January. Like, it's not exactly inspiring outside. But when I go for a walk, I take my camera and I look for those little details in nature that are still beautiful, even in the brown. There's not really snow this year, but kind of snow, kind of life that I'm living right now. So I have a personal passion for macro photography, and I'm very, very excited to share that with you guys today. So let's get started. First off, the thing with macro photography is you really do kind of need a macro lens. Now, do you have a macro lens? It's very possible. A lot of the kits that you get, like with the camera body and the couple lenses and stuff, one of those lenses, usually one of the telephoto lenses, is macro capable. You just have to look on the lens. Most of the time it's marked, the word macro. But a lot of times those kits come with that because they're trying to give you like a little bit of everything in those kits. And I know everybody's like, oh, well, the kit lenses, they're not so good. I am absolutely not a brand snob or a kit camera snob in any way. If you have a camera of any sort and you enjoy taking pictures, you can take beautiful pictures with that camera. It does not matter what lens, it does not matter what camera body, it does not matter what brand. It is about knowing how to use your tool. If a master carpenter built a chair and somebody was like, oh, you used that kind of hammer, I can't believe you bought that hammer at Costco. Like, come on, right? Like, bah. I don't want to hear it. I don't even want to have that conversation. So if you have a camera and you love photography, you are in the right place and you have the right equipment. It's all good. That caveat is that macro photography is a lot easier if you actually have a macro lens. So check and see if you have one. I have a workaround if you don't. Some of the other options are you can get extension tubes for the lenses that you have. I will say that things like 35mm prime lenses are not macro lenses, so that one is probably not, if that's what you're looking at or if that's what you have. Go look at those telephoto lenses that you have. Otherwise, more than likely, if you didn't buy specifically a macro lens, you don't have specifically a macro lens. Macro lenses typically range from 90mm to 105mm ish, and what makes them macro lenses is they can shoot at a 1-to-1 ratio. So basically, as big as the ladybug is in your screen is how big the picture is going to be of it, right? It magnifies to 1-to-1. That is the challenge if you don't have a macro lens, is that you don't get that magnification, which is why the images don't come out as crisp. So extension tubes are really cheap. You can get a full set for under $100, probably less than that. And macro lenses usually run somewhere between $400 and, well, you can always go up, right? But like $400 and $1,000 depending. I shoot with a Tamron 90mm 2.8 macro lens. It's a nice lens because it can also be a portrait lens, because 90mm and 85mm are basically the same, and 85 is considered like an optimal portrait lens. So it does double duty in my bag when I'm traveling and I don't want to take all of my lenses with me. I have a macro and a nice portrait together. But all of your brands are going to have a macro option. Or you can get extension tubes. Okay, so I'm going to talk about a workaround in a second, but let's go through all of the steps here. So first off, when you are trying to take a macro picture, manual focus most of the time. Now, I'm going to tell you that I am absolutely guilty of autofocusing on macro photography. 100%. Totally guilty of it. But as a standard, you want to manually focus. The reason is that when you're magnifying that much, any movement of any sort with your hands, just breathing even, can move the focus of your image. And we're going to talk about Aperture here in a second, and that is kind of the reason. Aperture is at fault here, or at least a big player in that problem. So manual focus most of the time if you're shooting macro photography. And that's also my workaround, is if you have a non-macro lens and you're trying to take a more detailed picture. I see a lot of beginning wedding photographers do this, where they're trying to take like the ring picture, but you can tell they don't have a macro lens, so like it's not quite as crisp as it could be. One of the things that you can do as a workaround there is manually focus your lens, because, so have you ever been trying to take a picture and your camera goes bzz, 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 right? Like it won't focus, it's just going bzz, bzz, bzz. My sound effects. You guys know what I'm talking about though. That typically is because you're too close to, so my flowers are my subject today. So you're too close to your subject. So what I want you to do is back up a little bit and then switch to manual focus and try and manually focus it. And that will get you closer to the effect that you're looking for. Sometimes you just have to take a really crisp image and crop in if you don't have a macro lens. But that's totally an option, especially with these cameras. Like you can crop in a decent amount, right? And still get a really crisp photo. So if you do not have a macro lens at the moment and you want to still try some of this stuff, maybe back up just a hair and switch to manual focus and manually focus on the item. It's not going to be quite the same as a macro lens, but you're going to get close. I know that you guys are creative enough to work it out. Okay? So we're going to move into Aperture. And why is Aperture a problem in macro photography? All right, so here's the thing. Is, you know how we've been talking all week with like shooting wide open has a shallow depth of field, right? And shooting with a closed down aperture has a really big depth of field. So macro photography like magnifies that problem. Like to the point where it's hard to get a fly's eyeballs and his legs in focus at the same time, even at like f11, right? Like it seriously magnifies the problem. So if you only shoot wide open and you did not practice everything in focus the other day, go back and practice that one, because macro photography is all about a closed down aperture and having as big of a depth of field as you can, because even with the really big depth of field in macro photography, we're only talking about this much, all right? And I'm not even joking. Like it is really hard to get everything in focus for macro photography. That is part of the challenge. And I'm going to talk about some ways to deal with that here in a second. But aperture plays a really big role, and if you're shooting at 2.8 or 1.4, you are not going to get nearly enough of your whatever in focus. Now, that doesn't mean that that's not a look, right? Like, we're gonna take pictures of flowers today because I went to the grocery store and I bought flowers for myself and you guys, right? They're flowers for you. But we're gonna take pictures of flowers today because it's brown outside and I like pretty colors. But if you have everything that's kind of just out of focus and soft, like those can be really ethereal, beautiful images. I have a Lens Baby Velvet 56 that I love for macro photography because it makes everything just creamy and dreamy and that. So like that is absolutely a look. But if you're trying to get those really, really sharp images, you absolutely have to stop down your aperture. I'm talking like between f11 and f14, usually. Sometimes more, right? But somewhere in that range is usually where most macro photographers start, unless you're focus stacking, which is an entirely different world and an entirely different video we are not going to talk about today. So if you know how to do that, cool. Otherwise, like, forget I even said anything. Okay, so the next challenge with that is when we shut down our aperture, what happens? We lose light, okay? So everything gets darker. So now we're like super magnified on this flower, and we've got a little tiny pinhole trying to get the light, right? That means that you need a lot of light for macro photography because like literally you just need, like you can't see otherwise. I mean, yes, you can up your ISO, and I'm not saying to not have your ISO just a tad bit higher maybe than usual because you are dealing with a lack of light. But if it's too high and you're that detailed in something, you are gonna see the grain and you are gonna see the noise in the picture. So, lighting. Lighting is actually week 3 with our challenge, and we're gonna go into it in more detail. But here, really any kind of light. Put your item inside the window. Put it outside if you're somewhere that it's nice and sunny out. Take a lamp and take the shade off of the lamp if you don't have any other kind of lighting, and put it like right next to your flowers if you're recreating what I'm doing, or whatever you're taking a picture of. Any form of light will help you, and you want to get light in there. Now, obviously, if you have a speed light or a strobe, pull that baby out, which is exactly what I'm going to do today because I have them, so I'm going to use them. But you absolutely want to diffuse that light so it's nice and soft. So if you're using a lamp, it might be beneficial of you to just put like hang up a white sheet or a pillowcase or some sort of white fabric to diffuse it if you feel like the shadows are a little hard. But that's getting into deep lighting, and I don't want this video to be like 100 hours long, so I'm gonna stop there. You need light for macro photography, okay? And then I think we're on to our demo, so I'm gonna stop the video for a minute, get all set up, and take some pictures. I'm gonna give you guys a little montage here in the middle while I get set up of some of the macro shots that I've taken because, like I said, I really like macro photography. So please enjoy this video of flowers and photos and pictures, and I don't know what I'm saying. Here's the pictures. I'll see you guys in a second. Hey guys, so welcome back. Hopefully you enjoyed those photos. I enjoyed taking them. I have set up a studio space. Now I want to start out with saying that I don't normally shoot macro in a studio. Like I said, it's kind of my like palette cleanser zen moment. So I typically shoot outside, but I want to give you guys an option. When I am doing food photography, frequently I end up in a studio situation, so some of those food shots were done inside and in a very similar, just hit my camera, very similar setup to this, all right? So I'm just gonna walk you through it. We're not gonna do a full shoot because I don't want you guys to like have to watch me in this video be like 1,000 minutes long. I want you guys out shooting your stuff, but I do have a couple of things that I wanna point out. Okay, so start out with, I am gonna fall and die. I just tripped. Okay, so to start out with, my camera is on a tripod, all right? Like I said, especially if you're going for a nature walk, you don't have to have a tripod specifically. but it helps, especially when you realize how narrow the depth of field is, even when you're shooting really high. In fact, let's talk about that right now. This picture I took at f14 just a second ago of the flower right there. And do you see the part that's in focus? Do you see how narrow the band that's in focus is on that picture? That is the depth of field that you are working with when you are working in macro. That was f14, all right? Super tiny. So that's why it is so important to be really specific about what you're shooting when you shoot in macro. Unless you're good with a little out of focus and like ethereal and all that, and that's fine too. I shoot like that. Okay, so I have a strobe set up because I have one with a softbox on it. It's an Octabox softbox. This one's only like 2 feet. I do it for headshots when I'm out traveling. But the modeling light is on that right now, so it's nice and bright. And then when I push the button, I don't think it's actually on. When I push the button, it flashes. You don't have to use a strobe by any means. Window light, LED, lamp with your shade taken off, a flashlight, whatever. Like, you just need some light because when you're dealing with these really shut down apertures, it's dark. It also makes it really hard to see, right? Like, it's harder to focus, which we're manually focusing most of the time here. And again, I absolutely cheat on this. You can cheat on this, but I'm trying to teach you best practices. So I'm gonna move my camera out of the way for a second because I want to show you kind of how it's set up, and then you guys can go and do your own thing. So I had that whole bouquet of flowers. I just pulled out a couple that I liked. So I have this nice lily. I have to totally admit something to you guys. I broke it, so I taped it to fix it. But you can't see it in the picture, so it doesn't matter. So I grabbed the lily, I grabbed some leaves, and that I have a water bottle, if I want to do, dew drops or whatever on there. And then these are 2 pieces of cardboard, basically. They're poster board, and I shoot with this all the time. I use them as V-flats, I use them as reflectors. They're cheap, they're easy. I just tape them together with white duct tape. Done. So what that does is helps reflect the light around so that it's not just hitting from one direction, but it'll bounce off the back a little bit as well. And with that being said, if you feel like it's too shadowy, like if you only have one light source and you want 2 light sources, you can put some over on this side as well, and that'll bounce the light into your subject. These are all things I'm going to talk about week 3 when we talk about lighting. But so having white pieces of paper or white pieces of cardboard around are great and super useful. And then I have a bunch of construction paper. When craft stores like sell these big books of paper on sale, I usually buy a couple with different patterns and prints. Even when I'm out and about, I like kind of putting them behind the flower because then I can change the color or whatever if the background that's actually there isn't, the most flattering and that. So, and then you just shoot and take pictures. But I encourage you to go out and do this outside if that's possible for you. If you are kind of still lost on ideas or the pictures aren't turning out exactly what you want, check out my photo or my video on moody images, shooting moody pictures. That is all nature photography and it's all macro photography. That's just what I ended up doing that day. So check out that video. And that kind of goes into it a little bit more in depth for you. So that is the end of week 1. Look for our highlights best of video coming out Monday morning, as well as the first video for week 2. I am so proud of you guys. Don't forget to tag your images on Instagram, hashtag LearnPhotoChallenge and hashtag photo for the rest of us. Post it in the Facebook group. I know I've said this 100 times, but I really mean it. And if you enjoyed this week, hit the like button, comment below, subscribe to my channel. I'm just doing this for fun, so I love your support and I really appreciate your kind words. And I will see you on Monday. Bye.